It started so small that I ignored it. A tiny, sneaky little twinge in my tooth. And like any other reasonable person, I did what we all do best. I ignored it. Toastmaster of the day and my fellow Cavaliers. At first, it was just a little sensitivity. Cold water? Interesting. Chocolate? Why does it suddenly feel like a betrayal? But although all of that was happening, I didn't go to the dentist. Because in my head, there were only two possible reasons. One, it was nothing. Two, it was something and I didn't want to know. So naturally, I selected nothing. Until one day, I took a completely normal bite and my tooth said, absolutely not. Not a suggestion, not a warning, but a decision. So I did the bravest thing I could think of. I booked the appointment. Now I'm pretty sure all of you have been to the dentist at some point, right? You all must have seen this chair. Trust me, that chair is not just any chair. That place is the place of regret, reflection, and very poor life choices. I sat there staring at the blinding light above me, wondering, how did I end up in this place, regretting all my life choices? Now the dentist, he took a quick look and said, small cavity. Small. That word offended me because if it was so small, why does it feel like my life was ending? And then they appeared. The tools, the tiny and suspiciously shiny and clean tools appeared. The drill screamed to life. Not buzzed, not hummed, screamed like a mosquito with a revenge plan. I froze completely. I was gripping the chair on both sides, like I didn't want to let go, like it was my final emotional support system. And in my head, three thoughts were running. One, run. Two, faint. Three, survive. So I chose to stay because I have to get this done at some point, right? And in my mind, one question was repeating like it was on loop. Why didn't I go to the dentist sooner? Now, eventually, it all ended. Everything seemed fine. I was so happy. But then, the dentist had to ruin it. He said, this is only a temporary feeling. You will have to come back. Temporary. What does that mean? This story has a sequel. Now somehow, while this entire horror story was unfolding, I realized something. All this pain, all this panic, all this stress, all of it came simply because I chose to ignore something small, right? If I didn't ignore it, this wouldn't have happened. And while I was on that chair, regretting all the decisions that led me to that chair, where I felt like I was being interrogated for crimes against oral hygiene, I realized this was not just a tooth problem. This we do with everything in life, not just, things related to your teeth. We don't consider small problems that urgent enough to deal with at the moment. Whether it's a skipped responsibility or a bad habit or a conversation that you're supposed to have had or a future me will deal with it problem, we convince ourselves that everything is fine and we ignore it, hoping that the problem will just disappear. But let me tell you all something very important. Small problems have this strange talent. They grow in silence. They grow while we are pretending that they don't exist. And that is the dangerous part. Although we brush it off and say we are fine, the problem itself is growing. So while I was dealing with that tiny cavity, I learned a lesson that I never expected to learn at the dentist. Prevention is always better than repair. Whether it's a 5-minute conversation that can save your friendship, a small habit that can save years of regret later, or a small step taken today that can solve a lot of problems tomorrow. But what do? We ignore it. We wait because we think they will just disappear on their own. So, after that entire very interesting situation that I had, I would say, I learned 2 lessons. And I want you all to listen very carefully. First, please brush your teeth properly. Your future selves deserve better than what I went through. And lesson number 2, don't wait for the drill. Don't wait until that tiny silent problem has grown so much like a dinosaur. Deal with it when you can still manage it, when it's still silent. Because trust me, one day it will come back to you bigger, sharper, and so much more expensive. Thank you.